We've all heard the studies on climate change. There was one this summer with some bleak predictions. Polar bears wiped out by the year 2100. But if the numbers and the science don't move your heart, perhaps the power and the intimacy of one single story will. That story belongs to a single polar bear, and her name is Nanu. She is the main character in the new book called Ice Walker. It's a book looking at climate change through the eyes and from the perspective of a polar bear. Author James Raffan has spent 42 years of his life making trips to Canada's Arctic Circle, getting to know the people and the creatures who live there. And he's joining us this morning from Cranberry Lake. Thank you so much, James, for joining us. This book is an intimate look at climate change through the eyes of a polar bear. Why was it important for you to do that and to take the polar bear's perspective, especially a female with cubs?
Good morning, Ben. We have created generations of really smart consumers and polluters, and I think we're tired of hearing the same old stories because we're not changing how we live our lives. And so I thought, what about, I mean, polar bears are so much in our lives. Everybody, you look north, many of us are because of climate changes, and the images that come back are quite often of polar bears in a kind of unpeopled wilderness. And there are people who live there, but the bears are already in our heads. And I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to go inside the life of a polar bear and who really encounters all of the crazy things that humans have done to the earth?
Well, I hosted an event last year for Polar Bears International, and if there was one takeaway for the amateurs like myself at that event, it was that what happens in the Arctic most definitely and immediately affects people everywhere on Earth. You decided to dedicate this to Huxley, who was a real bear that you worked with in the 70s. And he was pivotal to your career path in terms of turning you away from marine biology and leaning into cultural anthropology. Talk to me about who Huxley was.
You've done your homework, my man. Huxley was a large male polar bear who ran afoul of the city of Churchill, town of Churchill, because they were trying to coexist, and he was a so-called problem bear who ended up becoming a research subject. And it's kind of, I tell a bit of the story in the preface to the book, but he was a bear. I wanted to be a marine biologist, Ben, and through growing up, and had this incredible opportunity to do an analysis of the spectral sensitivity to see what a bear could see. But I realized as I sat in a darkened room at the University of Guelph, day after day, week after week, et cetera, that this bear was slowly going nuts in a cage. And I really did not have the stomach for doing the work, which was, a disappointment, a failure in me. But I thought, I curved away from the bedrock of science towards the sort of the landscape of culture and the learning from the people who took me and the places where I saw bears in the first instance.
James, the narrative in Ice Walker is peppered with really cool scientific facts that I will be dropping at cocktail parties in the future for years. It was fascinating to learn about polar bear paws and the chemicals that they give off. What can we, and also what can other bears learn from their paws?
Well, bears are, if you look into most animals, they're fascinating, but bears in particular, through their paws, and when you think about it, Ben, it's something that's just that thick can have 37 degrees centigrade inside and 37 degrees below zero on the outside. So that's amazing too. But when bears are walking, they actually give off olfactory cues, endocrine like hormones and other kind of scents that give a state of how well they are physically, how ready they are to mate, and they leave this trail, which is not only that's invisible to anybody else, but so they not only leave the trail, but bears also have the smell capability, the sensing capability to follow a trail like that and to know, even with minute amounts of these pheromones in the or these chemicals in the air, that when they're getting more intense and less intense, so they can move up a gradient or down. And also the last thing about polar bear paws, Ben, is when they walk, the back foot goes into the front, the hole the front foot has made in the snow, and that's really energetically
Oh, wow.
good for a bear. But it looks like they're walking on two legs. And sometimes when we're not looking, I think they might be.
Hey, James, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I could talk to you for hours about this. Congratulations on the book, and all the best to you.
Thank you very much.
The book is called Ice Walker.
Thanks for watching. If you like this, be sure to subscribe here.
And you can check out more Your Morning videos right here.